Okay, so dream building, we know that so much of this is around, kind of the business is around deciding what you want to do, but also it's about building those dreams. And quite often we lose our way. What we started off with maybe is not what we finish up with. And so it's really deciding what you want and trying to, or not trying, and addressing those issues that you have, the challenges that you have to try and achieve those dreams that you want. So the biggest thing is, why did you join Zinzino? Now, for some of them, it'll be one. For some of them, it will be one reason for doing so. But what motivated you to join Zinzino? And that really is what you need to try and put back into your psyche, if you like, to really kind of decide what it was that actually was the thing that actually, kind of motivated you to join Zinzino. Was it your health? Now, we've got a few health practitioners on here and also people who've got a great interest in health. Or was it about increasing your income? Maybe wanting to leave a legacy for the family, for, kind of the grandchildren, etc. But also about creating some residual income. Now, all of those things are great things to have as the reason. But your reason, okay, it's not playing at the moment. What is going on with this? Okay, thank you. So the reason that you do, that reason is why you do something. And it's got to be a powerful enough reason that's important to you personally. And I think sometimes we do things for things saying, I want to be a diamond. Well, why do you want to be a diamond? What does that entail? Well, I just want to be a diamond. Well, you need a bit more of a reason than that. That may be the reason that you are aiming for diamond, but you need to know the reason why. Is it because of the income that you'll get through that? Or is it the status, or just like diamonds? Who knows? But it's got to be a big enough reason for you to be important to you, and important enough to make sure that you actually carry that task through, that complete that task. The completion is the most important thing. So as much as you can do consistently, if it's not going anywhere, then you're not completing that chosen goal or that task, etc. So, what is the big reason for you? Is it a new house? Is it a new car, holiday, treating your kids or grandkids? Could be something completely personal to you. But it has to be that big thing. And for me, it was improving my health, but also improving our income and lifestyle, so that we can actually spend more time with our grandkids. So that was mine. So it's about reminding yourself who you are. What does Liz want? What does Kelly want? What does Ruth want? What does Romana want? And who you are. And it's about building your own self-image. And I think we quite often, as I said before, we quite often kind of do things because we think that that's the right thing to do. But if that's not you in your own self-image, then it probably doesn't resonate with you. So if you feel that it's necessary to create a vision board, and in fact, here's one I did. Bear with me a second. We had access to something called Brian Main's mind mapping. And this was a great thing. So this is my mind map. It's got my house, it's got the car I want, or in fact, I want for Nigel. Nice little Bentley convertible, that'd be good. It also had income goals, mentoring, all things like that were important to me. Now, we did this in October 2020. I didn't achieve what I actually got here. I was planning to be a Royal Crown by October 21. COVID had different plans for us all because it kept on keeping us out of circulation. So, it's still there, but I'm going to have to change the date now to 2022. So it's creating a vision board of something that, you know, important things to you that you want in your life, if that helps you. Nigel actually pointed out, he said, as much as I would love to be a dancer, if I put a picture of Nureyev up on a screen, transpose my head onto it, and he said, I've got no hope in hell in becoming that ballet dancer, because he said, well, it just doesn't, it's not me. So it's got to resonate with what you personally want in your life and who you are. So it's working out also then what you have to do to achieve those things. But you also need to put a plan together to know what you need to do to achieve it, and track your progress daily. It was funny actually, because someone said to me, I spoke to someone earlier, and they said, well, how's the business going? I said, yeah, it's on track. It's good today. It's good this week, and everything's good. But I check it daily. I check it twice daily. I check the volume. I check how many customers we've got. I check this. I check other people's volumes as well. And so that is just a matter of, that's my daily activity to do that, because I have that plan to get to a certain point. But tracking that is progress, you know, that progress is daily, must be done daily. The other thing is that we have lots of tools at our hands. And in fact, Dave, the daily disciplines, I've forgotten the name of the daily tracker that he's done, we can actually download that, and we can actually do those and fill them in. And it's making sure that you kind of create enough time in your life to get those things done. So if you've got 2 hours a day, maybe you've only got an hour a day, that's fine. But as long as that hour is spent creatively and consistent, then you'll get to where you want, as long as you put the effort in that hour. So it's really important to track that progression. Nigel, I'm going to ask you to come and do this one, because you're so good at explaining it. He's had to come back over now.
Okay. This is what we call a stick man. The stick man is really, if you ask a child to draw a picture of a person, the biggest part of the image is always the head. And that's, of course, where most people imagine they reside. The thinking goes on. But in fact, you know, we're not one, we don't think. You're not in control of who you are. What you might think in your head as you go through your day is not what's driving your activity. And this conceptually is trying to explain that. So at the top of the mind, we've got this, that's who you are, what you want to be. You think out these things, the constructs, what you're going to achieve, what you're going to do, how you're going to lead your life, and so on. But actually where the work goes on is in your subconscious. It's the habits we form. So because essentially we are the sum of our habits. You know, you think about just the process of getting up in the morning. You probably, you'll go through some kind of normal routine that you probably don't even remember each day, because you do it automatically. And this is the process most people go through. They're going through the motions because they've taught themselves to be that way. And so it's driven into the habit form and the activity we undertake. So if you think of it like this, what you're thinking about what you want isn't necessarily what you as a person conceive you can have. So I'll come back to the dance analogy, if you like, and me in particular, because it's, you know, I feel a bit embarrassed about not being able to dance, because my daughter's a really good dancer. She was professional. Our daughter, I should say. Sue's a very good dancer, and she bullies me into getting up and doing a bit of dad dancing now and then. But I generally have to have had half a bottle of wine before I get to that point. So I don't see myself as a dancer. So whilst I might think, you know, I could be a good dancer, I'd like to be a dancer, which actually, by the way, I don't. Who I am, what I am, in other words, what we have here in the subconscious, the habits I have, the way I really conceive of myself, what I see of myself, I'm just not a dancer. And actually, I don't want to be a dancer unless I've had half a bottle of wine. So the way this actually operates is we think we're in control, but actually it's the habits and the subconscious that drives the activity. So what you see here moving from top to bottom is conscious mind, thinking about things, trying to act out the life that we are. The subconscious, which is where the habits are and the activity actually happens. And then the body at the end of this produces the results. So if in your subconscious and your habit form, your self-image doesn't permit you to do things, well, guess what? It doesn't matter what you think, they won't happen anyway. I'll try and give another example. I used to smoke. We both did. Now, don't ask why, but that was a very long time ago. Both of us, I guess, were exposed to smoking as a part of the culture. Both my parents smoked, so access to cigarettes was really easy. So forming the habit of smoking was actually quite simple, because I used to steal the fags out of my dad's packet and my mum's when my dad didn't have many left. So I got ready access to it, and I could puff away, and I got addicted well before I was legally able to smoke. So of course that became part of the way my life was led. I smoke. That's part of who I became. I smoke. And I tried to give up smoking when Sue did, because she gave up in a heartbeat for a very important reason, which she'll probably share with you. And I said, if you last a week, I'll give up. She did last a week. And so I tried to give up. But of course, there are two mechanisms at play here. One is the physical mechanism of the addiction, but the other is the physical mechanism of the habit. Because it's not actually the addiction that's all that difficult to overcome, because you're over nicotine addiction in 4 days. That's out of your system. Your body doesn't crave it in the way it did. Essentially, you're clear of it. But what does still cause the problem is the cigarette between the two fingers, the cigarette after dinner, the cigarette first thing in the morning, the one that the habit of doing it. And that's in the subconscious, and in the form of it's just automatic. And so that the biggest in smokers giving up, the biggest danger point is day 7, because they're over the addiction. They think, you know what, I don't need cigarettes, but I could just have one. And that's the point at which they go back to the old habit form, because there's no new habitual behavior. And habitual behaviors, to change who we are, take between 21 and 28 days to achieve. Now, I should make a point about that. Habitual behaviors are habitual because they've been well driven in. And the longer they've been there, the harder it is to overcome them. And so actually you don't overwrite that behavior. You do overwrite the behavior, but the behavior is still there. You have to develop a new habit. So if we talk about the physical results we get as a consequence of what we do, as a consequence of what we think, then those results are driven by the habits we have. So if we want to change and get better results, different results, we've got to change the habits we have. And that's all about what your self-image says about who you are. So if someone says to me, are you a dancer? The answer is no. Would you like to be a dancer? Well, kind of. Are you prepared to do the work to become a dancer? No, I'm not. So you're never going to be a dancer then, are you? No, I'm not. Why? Because I don't want to be. So this goes back to this conceptual issue of what is it you want? And what is it you want is not driven by a B, it's driven by R. So in this context, so you've got to change, you start to think about what you want and then drive it into the habits you're undertaking on a daily basis to produce the results in the real world. And so that means a change of self-image. Now, why am I banging on about all this? Well, we are where we are because of what we've already done. We stay where we are because we go on relying on what we've already done to deliver results that we want. If you're not getting the results you want, then things need to change in the way we think. And that can only happen by constant reaffirmation of the reason why the change is important. And that boils down to the strong motivation you have to achieve the thing you're after. So if you think about, you know, I'd actually like a new car. I'd like to have that Bentley. I construct it, I see it, I sit in it, I smell it, I drive it, all those things. And I come out of the garage after I've done all that. And I think, well, you know, it's all right. It's okay, but I don't need it. Am I ever going to get it? Long and short answer, no. Because I'm haven't adopted the behavior to make it happen. And this is the point about what Zinzino, in fact, all networks try to train, teach fundamentally that the way you think about what you want in your life determines where you arrive. And this industry we are in is probably the best in the world for this, because it's all about helping people become who they'd like to be, as opposed to remaining where they're told they can be. And most of this concept of ourselves is driven by childhood behavior and the influences of particularly strong influences in our life, parents in particular, but also teachers, and the environment in which we are brought up and nurtured tends to create very, very difficult to break habit forms. And you know, I forget who it was who said, give me a child up to the age of 7, I'll turn him into a good Catholic. You know, just for a religious context. And it's the same in everything else. At the end of the day, it's the behaviors that children, we as children have formed, that generally lead to where we are as adults. Now, unfortunately, our whole system, in the West at least, is driven by the idea of compliance, and especially in terms of goal aspirations for what we want to be in life. That's driven by external opinions about our ability to achieve something, and not driven by a personal concept of what that achievement could be. And so what so many networks pay a huge amount of attention to is the fact that that exists, and the habits that people have aren't good enough. Correction, that's the wrong word. They're not formed in the right way for the achievements that people express they'd like to have to come about, because the habits aren't there. So what we're driving at here is it's coming back towards the full definition of what it is you want. Because when you define what that is, then it's much easier to understand the behavioral change that needs to happen. And that becomes the trigger and the reason why you fall back on that goal as being important enough to change the behaviors you've got, to bring about new results. So that comes then to this rounding and changing of self-image. And does it permit you to achieve what you want to achieve? Because if you think, you know, if you go up, another example, you sit in an audience and watch someone who's exceptionally talented and well practiced at something that they're very, very good at. And we wonder how easy it is for them to do it. And it's because they practiced it and practiced it and practiced it and practiced it until they become a master of that activity in a way which demands respect and admiration. And that's what most of us don't do. We don't focus upon that exceptional achievement through the way we actually lead our lives. We kind of just drift along because that's what school and parents teach us to do. So how do you change all that? Do you want to shift on? Let me just recap this a bit. Conscious mind, the left-hand side is important. If what runs through your conscious mind is ignorance, doubt, worry, and fear, then of course, you know, your reaction and your results are going to be basically, I can't have that. But if you work from a position of knowledge, faith, understanding, it produces freedom. And that brings about results that you'd like to have. So what we have to shift is our ignorance to knowledge. So instead of I can't, it's I can't because, it's I can because. And that knowledge helps to dispel the doubt about the possibility of achievement. And that brings about, once you've got that knowledge, the faith in the idea that it is achievable. Now we're starting to shift thinking. So the conscious mind is beginning to potentially change the way the subconscious works. I'll come back to how we blur the lines between the two in a moment. And so if we stay on the left, we go from ignorance to doubt to worry, of course. Now what that leads to is vacillation or total inactivity, because there's no confidence in being able to do what's necessary to make things happen. So we move that worry to understanding of what the consequences are. And then, of course, we take a calculated risk on the basis of achievement or otherwise. Because, of course, success and failure are two sides of the same coin. And that coin is unique to us because we're the ones who define it. And I like to reframe that idea of success and failure into, it's just a result. Some results we want, some results we don't want, but we've got to have them both because they're part of the same thing. So it's the understanding of the way this works that brings about the freedom to choose. And as that happens, the results change because the activity changes. Why? Because what's going on in your subconscious has also changed. We build new habits. And by building those new habits, our results completely transform from what they were to what they become. This is, though, a process. It just doesn't, very rarely does it happen overnight. So, yeah, go on. So what we end up with is this very strong understanding of what we want, very strong understanding of what needs to be done. The two things work in harmony. So you get order in your mind and order in your emotions, because at the end of the day, the thought leads to the feeling, leads to the action. It's not the other way around. It's always thought, feeling, action. If the feeling's not there, the action doesn't happen. And that in turn leads to sanity, peace and health, and of course, order in your body. All things improve because you're vibrating in the right way to meet the goals, aspirations, and desires that you have as a core part of your being. Next one. So, what are the three biggest challenges in your business today? In whatever you do today, whatever it is you're aiming to achieve today, what are the biggest challenges there? Because by understanding and breaking those down into what the daily action has to be, you can find 3 positive steps to take right now to meet what those challenges are and begin that shift away from fear and doubt and inactivity towards the achievement that we all desire for ourselves in whatever that happens to be. We're just using Zinzino as the vehicle by which we can engineer that change through this identification of the actions and the thinking changes that are necessary in order to achieve that. And then, of course, constantly tracking your progress is important, but it's just a way of keeping score effectively. And the more you keep score, the easier it is to identify what needs to be done. So if you're not talking to enough people, that's blindingly obvious. If you go back over the last 30 days and honestly answer to yourself how many people you've spoken to about Zinzino, or indeed anything else that matters to you, then that will tell you what results you're getting. Because at the end of the day, all of this is, at the end of the day, a numbers game of some sort. Next one. And what are the 3 most important things you do? Well, what are the 3 most common habits you have that stop you doing things? Where is the procrastinator? I know I need to make phone calls. Oh, I'll just have a quick cup of tea. I know I need to make phone calls. God, that looks a bit dusty over there. There are all sorts of ways that we can avoid avoidance behavior, as it's called. And all of us do it to a greater or lesser extent. And I tend to work to lists. And one of the lessons I learned over many years ago was that you write down the 6 most important things to do today, and you don't do anything else till they're done. And the whole secret of that is, it's not the urgent and important things you need to write down. You should never have urgent and important on a list. Important, and they never become urgent. Because when you get the 2, then it becomes stress. And that's something to be avoided if possible. So what activities could you delegate? In other words, what things don't you need to do?
You get me to do the cleaning.
Well, you see, I can just live with more dust than Sue can. And what activities could you eliminate altogether? Because there are, again, behaviors, habits in particular, things we do we don't need to do. And we could be changing the results we have by finding a better use of the time we've got in order to achieve more as a consequence of that. And this is an honesty exercise with yourself at the end of the day. It's, am I genuinely doing what I want to do in order to take me where I want to end up? And here's the biggest problem of all. The vast majority of people simply don't know what they want. And that's, again, unfortunately, the result of our programming in early life. Because we're constantly suppressed from having the things that we want as children. I look at our grandchildren and, and I really want that. Well, you're not having it. Oh, I really, really, really want that. You're not having it. I really want that. And then they start to cry in order to try and get it. And that then forces emotion into the lack because they're not being able to get hold of it. because it's a strong emotion that's now attached to that. You can't have it. But up until about the age of 5, they're the best salespeople in the world. Probably a little bit older than that, actually. And then they become persuasive and manipulative because they get that out of adults. And we're experiencing that now with our grandson, who's now 9, and he's a great arguer, and he's got a brilliant answer for pretty much everything. And and then it becomes
charming out of an ice cream.
Yeah.
And a
Well,
magazine.
every time I go to the shop, I know it's going to cost me a tenner. Because that's just the way it is. Because again, I'm a great believer in helping them to realize that they can have whatever they want if they do it in the right way. So next,
No,
that is it.
That is it. Oh,
So that's a really rapid, quick fire
hang on a second.
version of that. This is
Okay.
something that I tend to do over over a full day, with a lot more input into it, in order to help people really get to grips with the most important question: what do you want? What do you want? If you answer that, everything else falls into place. And if you answer that not with a construct, in other words, it's not a conscious thought that you think, oh, well, that sounds like a good idea, I'd really like that. You know, that's not attached to an emotion. It's how do you drive out what the things that you personally see as core to yourself. And that's a subject for another day. But finding out what that is helps to then determine what the reasons are that you're doing what you are in order to achieve something beyond where you are at this current stage.
So it's so Romana's just went and managed to get to goals. So congratulations, she achieved that last night. So really proud of her. And she's really heading towards the top team very quickly now, which is 100 customers, which she'll get a nice €10,000 bonus for, which will be paid on a monthly basis. So, you know, it's having that goal in mind. And I'm sure that Romana, she's walking at the moment, I think, still. But Romana's got that goal in mind, is that she wants to actually be top team at least in the next couple of months.
She's gone from the Maldives to Durdledor. Yeah,
I know she's in Durdledor now.
Yeah.
she had a screensaver on earlier, which was she's back there. She is. She's in the Maldives again. You know, that's one of her goals. Yeah, that's one of her goals. But the other thing that you know, Romana's done, she's sponsored Boba, who's just joined us last week. And hi, Boba. And it's great to see the enthusiasm being, you know, kind of shown, and the goals that they have together, you know, to help change other people's health around the world. So, you know, it's setting those goals. And I think it's Hilda who says you need to set big, scary, scary goals, isn't it, or something?
Well, yeah.
Big, hairy goals.
There is a lot to be said for that, but that comes after you know what your why is.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what the why is and why you're fundamentally doing it, then you can set the biggest, scariest goals in the world and they won't happen.
Yeah.
And that leads to frustration, disappointment, not disappointment, but a reinforcement of the idea of lack and failure, because they're unrealistic in the first place. So this conceptually, psychologically, philosophically, whatever way you like to look at it, fundamentally, it's about why and what it is you want. Because if that's not big enough to fail for, or to get it wrong for, or to get the wrong results for, then that's when people stop, because it's simply not, it's not part of their self-image to achieve it. And so it's understanding it at the very basic level that keeps you going in the times of hardship and challenge and frustration and irritation and, you know, all those things that get in the way, because the goals have got to be big enough to fail for and go on again and again and again. And the only shift is not the goal itself, you just change the plan. Because you know, if you've got a plan that's not working, what does that mean? Change your activity. So, but it always comes back to the why you're doing it and what you want. And when you've got that nailed, the rest of it happens. The universe conspires to make it happen for you. because everything falls into place. It's synchronicity in a way which we don't get if we're just resisting it. You know, oh, I can't do that. Well, yeah, you're right, you can't. You know, I won't do that. Absolutely you won't, because you don't want to. It's not driven by any form of emotion. So it's connecting with it.
Okay. Nice to see you.
Sorry, I banged on long enough. Yeah.
She's bored now.
Yeah, I can tell.
She's probably got another client coming in.
Yeah.
So obviously when someone, especially, you know, when you're a practitioner, you know, you have to be very regimented with your time as well. And so that is important, that, you know, kind of she's able to come on here, dedicate so much time to us, and then she's got to go, kind of going back. But it's setting out what you want to achieve next. So if so for Romana, it's going to be she's disappeared again. Where's she gone? I think we've lost Romana. For Romana, I've said the next goal should be executive, which is 3,000 credits. Now, that sounds a huge amount. That's 1,000 in one leg, and the other leg needs to be in 2,000. So as long as you've got that kind of 2/3 and a third split. Platinum, a little bit more, it's double that, so it's 6,000. So 2 and 4. And then diamond is 12,000. So it's doubling it up each time. So it's putting that there and then working it back to see what activity you have to do to achieve it, and work literally from day to day to day to day. Because
here's the beauty of all that, though. Everybody, you know, there are lots and lots of diamonds about. There are lots of people above that, from ambassador to president and so on. So it's all, we know it's achievable. So how have they done it? Just by doing the things that work. And that means learning the lessons and doing the things that work. That doesn't mean reinventing the wheel. And I always, forgive me if I sound hackneyed here, but I always use this example. You don't buy a McDonald's franchise and start selling pizzas, because the system is designed to sell hamburgers and chicken McSandwiches or whatever they're called. You know, and well, exactly. I know you don't know, Liz, and I'm happy to say I hardly ever go there. I very occasionally, in inverted commas, treat our grandchildren to them, especially on a Friday night in River's case, because he's ravenous after football. But you know, I don't eat them myself.
no,
but the system is designed in a way to deliver a result, and the system we have is designed in exactly the same way to deliver results, because it's worked for all those who've achieved what they have. And of course, the fundamental underlying beauty about one Zinzino offers is residual income. It's that retirement style income, the sort of thing you get from from having recorded a record that gets played around the world, and you generate royalties every year from that. You do the work once, you get paid many times for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's follow the system and just have the courage to do the things that need to be done. And if you don't feel confident in doing the things that need to be done, ask for help, because the system is designed to help. It's all there to support the people who want to do it. And what does that boil down to? Why and motivation. That's it.
And you know, we help many of you kind of do presentations and things like that. And that's not because you can't do them. You can do them, but it's having that inimpeachable third party.
You get better results by using us.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you?
Unimpeachable.
You know, don't be frightened about it. It's part of the role, and that the duplication that happens as a consequence of that keeps the system moving.
Yeah.
You know, and
it works well.
And literally, at the end of the day, you can have whatever you want.
Yeah.
So don't limit your thinking.
Yeah. And if you listen enough times to the presentations, and that's why going on to the business presentation or the product presentations are really important, not because you haven't heard it before, because it will ingrain it into your mind that little bit, embed it into your mind a little bit better. So, you know, then you are able to take the leap of faith and do it yourself. In the way that you would do it. You know, my way is not everyone's way, and Nigel's way is a different way completely as well. So but we're here to help you anyway. So I think that's probably about it for today. I hope that has been of value to you. You can unmute yourselves now, by the way. Unmute yourselves. Let me just stop recording.
Thank you so much.